Good evening. I hope you're having a great evening, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend. This is Sunday evening. I'm recording it once again on a Sunday evening. I hope you had a great weekend. The weather was certainly amazing. We spent a lot of time outside. I'm going to continue reading on the Sermon on the Mount. And so we're starting at Matthew chapter 7. It says, Matthew chapter 7, verse 1, it reads, "Do not judge so that you will not be judged. For in the way you judge, you will be judged. And by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' and behold, the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take out the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." I can relate to that. "Do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls away before swine, or they will trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened. Or what man is there among you who, when his son asks for a loaf, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, he will not give you a snake, will he? If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give what is good to those who ask? To those who ask Him." A couple of things. It's absolutely amazing that we get to call God Father. Think about that. The last few nights I've been outside just looking at the stars, and God spoke all those into existence, and we still get to call Him Father. I mean, that's humbling. Second thing, not necessarily related to this, but where it says in verse 9, or what man is there among you when his son asks for a loaf, will give him a stone? My daughter is really into geology and rocks. She just loves rocks, and she's been wanting to find one of these pudding stones. Michigan's pretty famous for having those. There's certainly a lot along the Lake Huron. So we were going to take a trip last summer, but because of all the COVID stuff that occurred, we didn't go up to Lake Huron. I felt kind of bad. So we're going to do it this year and take her up to Lake Huron and try to find a pudding stone. Well, tonight in the backyard, we've got a whole bunch of rocks back there, and there's a little bit of a swamp back there, and she was out there playing, and she found a pudding stone, which is about this big, and it's got all kinds of little red jasper, and it's just beautiful. She's got it in the garage in a pail of hot soapy water. It's not hot anymore, but in soapy water, trying to clean it up. So when I read that about the stone, it just reminded me of how my daughter was so happy to find one of those pudding stones, and I was so happy she did find it. All right, so in week 7, you'll be looking at acids and bases. That is a wonderful chapter. It's a very important chapter. The thing I really want you to focus on acids and bases is to get an intuitive sense of the pH scale. Now, what the pH scale is, it's the scale to measure whether something is very acidic or whether a substance is very basic. If you have a very low pH, you're going to have a very acidic sample or compound. If you have a very high pH, you are going to have a very basic substance. And so that becomes an important criteria, certainly in the nursing field, because you're going to have to know or learn about the pHs of particular medicines. And those medicines can interact through the metabolic pathways to hopefully not change the pH of the blood. So the pH of blood is 7.4. If it either increases or decreases a tenth of a pH, then the individual will probably die. And so it becomes very important to know the pHs of these drugs and these chemicals or medications, so it doesn't interact or disrupt the pH of blood. The lab you're going to be doing this week is going to be called Benium, and it has to deal with determining the average atomic mass of a substance. So what you'll be learning in this is about isotopes. So for instance, hydrogen has 3 isotopes. You have hydrogen, you have deuterium, and you have tritium. So hydrogen will have a mass of 1 gram per mole, tritium will have a mass of 2 grams per mole, and tritium will have a mass of 3 grams per mole. And if you look at the weighted average, and what the weighted average is the percent abundance of those isotopes in nature. You take the percent of abundance, multiply by the molar mass, and then you add that to another isotope and its percent abundance. You add to that another isotope and its percent abundance, and what you get is you get the average molar mass. And so, for instance, hydrogen is going to be 1.008 grams per mole. Now, the majority of all the hydrogen at least that we've discovered, is going to be hydrogen 1, where it just has a proton and no neutrons. But there's still going to be some deuterium where it has 1 neutron and 1 proton, and thus it will have a mass of 2, or tritium, which will have 2 neutrons and 1 proton, and will thus have a mass of 3. However, deuterium and tritium are very, 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 very scarce in the atmosphere. And thus, well, not just the atmosphere, but even hydrides as well too. It's just not that prevalent. And thus, their masses do not contribute very much to the average molecular mass, or the atomic mass, which is 1.008. So the 0.008 takes into account the deuterium and the tritium. It's an interesting lab. It will teach you where the average atomic masses came from that you find on the periodic table. I hope you have a great week. We're off. Spring Arbor University had spring break this past week. Don't know how it translated to the online stuff. I guess it didn't. But I hope you have a great week, and if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask me, and I'll be of any assistance I possibly can. And once again, I'm sorry for my tardiness of not always getting to the emails quickly enough. All right, thank you for being merciful and forgiving to me. I hope you have a